Last year, and in fact you can Google this when you go home tonight, the Tax Foundation rated all 50 states as they have since 1937. It's a nonpartisan group. They rated Michigan as 48th most competitive state in its tax structure. In other words, we're third from the bottom. And when I'm out with regular folks, and that doesn't mean you're not regular folks, but when I'm out with folks who don't run businesses, and I tell them, and I talk to them about the business tax, I always talk to them in describing what it really is. It's a jobs tax. As most all of you know, and I certainly know in the business that I run, like any business, our two business expenses, well, not mine, but yours are, I expect, payroll and taxes. Now, supplies may be in the mix, but payroll and taxes are always, for most businesses, the two biggest ones. And as someone explained to me a long time ago, the higher taxes, the less your payroll. And in fact, we've seen that borne out here in Michigan. Because the third worst tax rate, the third worst jobs tax rate, has in fact left us with the worst unemployment rate in the country. I don't think that's too coincidental. And in fact, what's interesting is that the perceptions of the rest of America have caught up with our actual tax rate. If you go home today and you Google CEO magazine, every year CEO magazine surveys 500 CEOs of Fortune 2000 type companies. And this year, in their ratings of all 50 states, Michigan finished in the exact same place we finished last year. They do, as part of their rating of the 50 states, they do the 10 best states to do business, and they do the 10 worst states to do business. And this year, for the second year in a row, Michigan, perception-wise, was rated the third worst place to do business in the country. Now, I don't know that they knew that we had the third highest jobs tax in the country, but certainly their perception, they had learned over time that Michigan is not a very good place to do business. In fact, one of the CEOs was quoted in there, and you can still view it online, called Michigan an absolute tax and regulatory nightmare. And that's what I want to talk to you about for the next 5 minutes, what I would do. And what I will do starting next January as your governor. But to do that, I want to, since you're home builders, I want to share with you one story of a mall builder, if I could, a guy who's a builder of a different sort. Last year, Al Taubman wrote a book, and it was called Threshold Resistance. And as some of you may know, Al was an architect who got hired to start designing strip malls, and that's how he got into developing malls. And he called it Threshold Resistance because he viewed his job, his mission, in his business life and in his personal life, to figure out ways to lower the threshold of getting a customer to cross into one of his stores. And he would kind of apply that analysis to his personal life in terms of friendships, family relationships. So think about Michigan being inside a mall and what I just told you about. Imagine there's a mall of 50 states, and you're walking through the mall, and you see, instead of Nordstrom's or JCPenney's or Payless Shoes, you see Indiana, and you see Ohio, and you see Colorado, and then you come upon the Michigan store. And what do you see in the display case? It says, "Come shop with us. We have the third highest taxes in the mall. Come shop with us. We have the third highest prices in the mall." Now, I expect everyone here would say, before I look in that store, let me go look at the 46, 47 other stores that have a lower price first. And in fact, those customers who were inside that store, inside the Michigan store, they're going to see that all the traffic's going to the other stores, and they're going to take a peek out, and they're going to wonder what's going on in those other stores. And I expect you all have done that, depending on the size of your operation. You've said, well, maybe I should take a look at doing developments in Ohio or Indiana or other places. Let me try out some of the other stores. I found myself stuck in this one store where the prices are way too high. I make that point simply to lead you to this point. We need bold change, dramatic change. You know that. This Michigan that we're in right now is not the state that it was. My parents are immigrants that came here 60 years ago. And they chose to come here over New York or California or Florida, probably for the same reason your parents, your grandparents came here. Because Michigan was the economic engine of the country. Michigan was the economic envy of the whole free world. And this is where it was going. This is where it was at. And you know what was happening all during that time we were attracting immigrants? Was we were building houses. And you probably know as well as anyone, since you are a true canary in the coal mine, your industry, that when things aren't going well, you feel it right away. So what do I propose to do about it? Well, I can't tell you everything, but I have a plan. It's called Putting Michigan Back to Work. And I put it out in early September because I want the voters and the people who are looking for a governor to not know what I plan on doing when I get in office next January 1st. And this plan is 60 pages, 92 ideas. Some ideas are big, some ideas are small. But you're going to see a lot of particulars. And the centerpiece is about changing that store in the mall to become the most attractive store in the mall. By that I mean, in here, there's a plan for a $2 billion tax cut. And what I would do, I would roll back the 2007 income tax, which hits every single working man and woman in Michigan, every single family. And as a first step on the way to eliminating the Michigan business tax or the Michigan jobs tax, I would cut it in half. And we can talk about that in the question and answer session, why. But if we cut it in half, we'd move from being the third worst store in the mall to being the seventh best. Now think about what that would do for Michigan. Having the seventh best tax structure in the country, and you team that with our geography, our great natural resource, the fact that we're on an international border, our trained workforce, and our location in the heart of the Midwest and our Midwestern work ethic, as well as our great universities. That would be a recipe for success. Now, a $2 billion tax cut, for me, it's not really a matter of being a Republican or a Democrat or independent. It's really a matter of self-defense, because we need to do something that dramatic to not only change the dynamic here, but to attract more people to come here. Because what will that $2 billion tax cut do? Number one, it will be a home state stimulus. We'll let you keep more of your money. So maybe you can hire the next employer you're thinking about, or maybe you can invest in the capital you've been putting off, whatever it would be that you would use for home building. So that's the first part. Number two is send a message to everyone else in the mall across the country that Michigan is now open for business. Number three, it would turn off the faucet of state government spending. Because if you pick up the paper tomorrow morning and you read about what the governor's proposed, she's proposed another $1 billion in taxes. She's proposed now making you pay a tax on your haircut or going to the salon for the first time ever without any true cost-cutting reforms. I think that's the wrong way to go, and that's the wrong message to send to Michigan and to the rest of the country. Again, I asked you, after this, go to my website, mikecox2010.com, and you're going to see real ideas, not platitudes, real ideas. You're going to see a real business plan. And your business, you have to show your customers a floor plan, or you have to show them a model, or you have to show them what you've done in the past, and before you can make the sale. And so come take a look at my floor plan, my blueprint for building a better and stronger Michigan. Let me leave off on one point, because I know Dawn's going to come yank the microphone or something more severe. But let me leave off with the other part of that one CEO's quote. I talked about taxes, but I didn't talk about regulation. Maybe we can get into that in just a bit. But I want to leave off, there's some ideas in here on regulatory reform. I put in the idea there, something I've talked about for the past year and a half, of what we call a default permit. That when you go for a permit, that every agency that issues permits, especially the DEQ and others, would have to have a standard turnaround time. And if they don't complete the permit process within that, then the presumption is that you should get your permit unless they can come up with a reason not to. A second idea is that we shouldn't have any regulatory standards that are above what the federal government has, unless we have the science to prove that. Number three is that the DEQ ought to be harnessed and ought to have a new philosophy where they don't treat job creators and businessmen and women and people who want to develop something as the enemy, but rather works with them.